How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to episode 6 of Flight Time. Today, we're going to be talking photography, mainly color science. I've got no idea what we're going to title this podcast yet. We'll come up with something catchy, but we want to talk about color science. Today, I was shooting with both the Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro, and as I sat down there and I edited both photos, trying to make them look similar, I loved the photos coming from the Mavic 2 Pro, and my Mavic 2 Zoom was just bleh.
No.
Yeah, no,
you can't say that. No way.
So here might be the unfair advantage. It was an inspection, so it wasn't like real estate.
Okay.
And for the zoom, I was using it to like get down in the corners, but still, like I just feel like even when I bumped up the exposure, it introduced a lot of noise. I don't know. And I also shot that other photo that I posted up on like Twitter and Facebook of the city, the skyline zoomed in. That's one of the greatest things about the zoom, being able to zoom in to 48 millimeters, compress that space. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. But I will give you this to that argument that right now, of all the drones, the Mavic 2 Pro does have the best color science of all the drones on the market right now. It's sort of like the Arri Alexa of drones in my eyes, because I always felt like everybody goes gaga over Canon colors, for DSLRs, but I've always gone gaga over the Alexa look because it just has like a very, I don't know, pleasing tones. There's no other way. There's no other way to describe it. It's very pleasing.
So we tried to do one take of this podcast, had to restart, and something that I mentioned in the beginning is that I really never shot photos, not only with like a ground camera, but also with my drone. Every single time I went out, I was shooting video. And with us being on YouTube, that just makes sense. I mean, we post mostly videos, but something that I think recently is I've been challenging myself to take better thumbnails. And for those thumbnails, I always want to have like a nice raw photo that I can edit up. And again, that's kind of challenged me to take better photos. And now it's pushed me to love photography. Like I almost like shooting photos more than I like shooting video.
I agree. There's times where I just rather shoot photos. I'll be somewhere, I'm like, I don't feel like shooting a video, but like I'll be inspired by something I see and I'm like, man, this is gonna be a great photo. I've even gone out at times like right at like sunset, by myself and just like go somewhere where I know like there's an awesome capture and just start snapping photos. I used to never do that. It was always video, but I feel like photo is definitely like a great challenge, and you can get all sorts of different looks, and you can like sort of make a signature look for yourself with photos, like with color. Yeah,
and I really noticed that in your photos. I feel like about maybe like 8 months ago, I remember when we were flying like in sort of just outside of New York City. I remember you really started to establish, I guess, like a color or like a style for yourself. I just remember seeing those photos, and I feel like you've continued that even when you went out to Vegas and you were shooting.
Yeah, so I decided like it was in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Vegas. Yeah, that's when I decided. Like I remember, like I looked at my Instagram and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? There was all sorts of stuff, and I do the same thing with my YouTube. I look at my thumbnails. I'm like, oh, I wish I never did that. I wish I went simpler. But once you stick with a look, you're sort of stuck with that look.
Mm-hmm.
But for Instagram, I just remember sitting one night and just going through, it must have been 800 photos. There's no way to like mass archive things. And I said, I'm going to start fresh from here. And I always want to have the same consistent color. So like every time I post a photo to my Instagram, it's got sort of a reddish, it's got a red hue to it, sort of. That's like sort of my vibe, red hue.
Do you play with the sharpness and like texture at all? Because I feel like they're also very like sharp also.
Overly sharp or they're just sharp?
They're not overly sharp. I wouldn't say that, but there's just so much like definition. Like you either play with the contrast or something like the texture or clarity or something.
I play with the clarity. I found, what I find is that in photos is that it's not the sharpness, it's the clarity that like I usually do like plus 25 on clarity for drone shots.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is I'll hit it with a little bit of smoothness just to, I don't know, round it out so it doesn't look so digital, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Well, we were talking about what we wanted to discuss for this podcast, and it kind of came to us when we were talking about shooting photos with these different drones. And for you, especially doing like your real estate shoots, I feel like you're always grabbing a different drone. And I almost think it makes it harder on you. Like, why do you go with different drones and change your editing process when you could just use the same drone?
I could use the same one, but like there's times like I'll look in the corner and it's like, it's giving me the puppy eyes like, hey, I haven't been in the air in a long time, man. My battery's blinking. You know, just take me out once. I promise I won't disappoint you. And then I'll be like, all right, come on, Phantom. You know, let's go out and get this shoot. And then he just does stupid stuff. I'm like, well, you're going to be in your box for a while now, man. So I don't know, like for like certain times, like depending on the weather, like lately it's been really rainy. And I just figured to myself, like today, it was sort of miserable. I have my stunt drone, my Evo, and I'm just like, yeah, if it gets wet, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mad if it gets wet. It already got wet once. So if it gets wet again, I'm not going to even sweat it. So it turns out it can actually really take some great real estate photos, like great photos.
That's something I've always loved about the Evo is I feel like the colors from it, like not only photos, but the videos are also great. I mean, not even if like you're shooting in log, like when you're just shooting in that normal color profile, taking it right out of the box, I think it looks incredible, especially when the horizon is straight.
Yeah, when it's got a straight horizon, you're in good shape. Luckily, I mean, I haven't had any horizon issues as of late with it, which is good. But what I've noticed was because it's a 94-degree field of view, I'm not finding myself having to go so far back or even, you know, run such a heavy altitude to be able to capture, you know, the entire property. I remember it was my brother-in-law. He decided he was going to sell his property in a development, and the realtor that I go through, he hired them. So I had to go out and shoot the property, and it was relatively close to the airport. And I looked and it said, well, you can get up to 50 feet, you know, instant, authorization. Otherwise, if I needed more, I would have had to wait like 48 hours. And I'm like, 50 feet should be enough to get an entire property. I just need to put some property lines on it. And sure enough, with the Evo, it was plenty high, and it looks like, you know, 100 feet from the Mavic 2 Pro.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I've run into those issues too. It makes me want something that's a little bit wider, and it's nice to reach for that Evo. Now, back to that conversation we were having, you said you brought out the Phantom 4 Pro and you just really weren't happy with the photos that it shot. And I'm in the same boat. Like, in my opinion, look, I think the Phantom 4 Pro shoots better video than the Mavic 2 Pro, and I think the Mavic 2 Pro shoots better photos than the Phantom 4 Pro. And I'm sort of in the same boat because I've got the Zenmuse X4S for the Inspire 2. So that camera is very similar to what the Phantom 4 Pro shoots. And I'm just not a fan of the photos. Like, I'll shoot photos with the Inspire 2 on a shoot, and then I'll also break out the Mavic and I'll shoot photos with that. And I love editing those Mavic photos because you can really push them around a lot, but I feel like there's not much you can do with those photos coming from like the Phantom 4 Pro, for example.
So that, I think, has a lot to do with the color depth, the bit depth on the Mavic, especially for video. I noticed for video, the Phantom, you know, people may be like, no, it's great. I don't think so. I feel like the images look a little bit dark and murky sometimes, and I'm really trying to pay attention to the vibrancy of the photo. But I felt like the house I shot yesterday just seemed a little bit lifeless. Like, I can't really explain it. Like, I've looked at the Mavic photos, I've looked at the Evo photos, and then I posted that photo with, there's 4 photos on there. And you picked out the Phantom right away. You were like, oh, that's the Phantom. I'm like, yeah.
I think the reason I noticed was because of the greens in the greens in the grass.
I feel like the only thing that to me that drives me nuts about the Mavic is, or the Mavics, I'll say, is that the greens tend to go a little nuclear. Like, they're like yellow. They're heavy on the yellowish side.
Well, here's the thing about the Mavic 2 Pro, and this is what a lot of people are complaining about, is that it's too warm, which is easy to fix if you're shooting raw. You can just adjust your white balance as you need to. But, you know, in the beginning, everybody was like, what does this name Hasselblad mean? Why did they put Hasselblad on here? Is it just to make it seem like it's a higher end product? But, at first, maybe I didn't realize it, but now I totally understand that all of the color science and all of the things that go into a Hasselblad camera can be found, or at least some of them can be found in the Mavic 2 Pro's camera. And I remember talking with a few people in the beginning, and they're like, maybe they are doing something wrong here and they're watering down the name Hasselblad because they're putting it on such a small drone and they're not making like a big Hasselblad camera for the Inspire 2, rather they're putting it on the Mavic 2 Pro. But I mean, look, right now the Mavic 2 Pro is my favorite drone to shoot photos with. When I go on a shoot and I know I'm taking photos and videos, even though it makes it more work for me, I shoot the photos on the Mavic 2 Pro and I shoot the video on the Inspire 2. That's just how I do it.
So I've been doing a lot of my properties. I've been using the Mavic 2 Pro for absolutely everything, like outside. And I've gotten to be, I wouldn't say lazy, but where I find that the colors from the photos are so pleasing on the Mavic 2 Pro that I don't even whip the tripod out. Like I literally just set the drone up, grab my 5 exposures. That's what I'm doing. I'm using auto bracketed exposures, 5 exposures, bam, get my different angles, and it's super easy to set up, and you can get some really interesting angles with that. I'll go to the backyard, get my angles, and what I love about having a drone to do that outside is that you can get angles that you couldn't necessarily get with a tripod, and it makes the house look a little more proper. I can't explain it, but it's not overly wide, and you have almost an infinite amount of room to play with, unlike a tripod.
Yeah, I agree. I remember this has got to be like a year and a half ago at this point. I made the mistake of not bringing a full-sized SD card to put in my camera, and I only had the micro SD card. Now, I was shooting some exterior photos, and I didn't have the adapter, so I couldn't like put the micro SD card inside of my Panasonic G7 at the time. So I had to shoot everything with the Phantom 4 Pro, all exterior photos of a house, and it might have been the best mistake that I've made because I was able to edit photos that looked the same. I mean, there's definitely a distinct difference between photos that are taken with the Phantom 4 Pro and photos that are taken with the Panasonic G7. So at the end of the day, it almost made it easier on me because I didn't have to set the drone up only for a certain amount of photos. I could put it up in the air, use the whole battery to shoot every photo I needed. And at the end of the day, I'm using the same camera. So it made it easier to then edit the photos. And Steve has also been doing the same thing. I think we bring up Steve in every single podcast, but we just got to have him on.
He might as well be like a guest that's not like actually here. He's just a guest that's just here. He's almost like Jack on Unbox Therapy.
Well, he told me, he's like, if I've ever got to shoot where like I have a drone flight, like if he's going to be shooting aerial photos for a house, he just uses the Mavic 2 Pro for all of the shots outside. Now, if he needs to get certain shots of like the deck and he needs to shoot wider, he'll go with just his regular camera, but he pretty much just uses his Mavic 2 Pro for all the shoots, for all the shots.
Yeah, and my rule of thumb is with like shooting, like even when I get into video, I like to use my gimbal, but then there's times where I don't want to because what tends to happen, I'm shooting D-Log-M, I'm shooting S-Log-2. I have to use specific lookup tables to really match the footage. Anybody who says that they're color grading without a lookup table is not grading correctly. You need to have like a base palette to be able to start. Like I start off with some form of lookup table on every shoot that I do, sans photos, but I try to, like, if I'm going to do video with the Mavic, all right, everything exterior is going to be the drone. So like my color science is the same. And when I get into the house, fine. Yeah, I'm going to transition into the camera. To the normal person, their eye is not going to notice the difference between the colors from the outside to the inside. Yeah. So it's like something important you got to keep in mind.
And the good thing about like a photo is if you're shooting with 2 different cameras, you can play with those images to make them look similar, but video is a different ball game. It's definitely harder to color grade video. And another reason I would use the drone outside is just because you can cover more ground. I mean, if you want to try and do an orbit of the entire front of the house at a low angle, if you had to do that with like a gimbal, it would be a pain. Like I feel like it would almost be impossible to get a nice smooth movement without a drone.
Yeah, for 100%. I can agree with that.
I wanted to make a video called I Don't Like Shooting Video with the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. you know what? I preach it all the time, but I just feel like the Inspire 2 is so capable. Like it's so flexible, and you can shoot video with it so well that I almost go back to the Mavic 2 Pro and I'm like, I don't even want to shoot video with this. And there was a time a few months ago I was out in Newport, Rhode Island, and I didn't want to bring my Inspire, so I just brought the Mavic 2 Pro with me, and I had the intent of shooting video. And there was this, in Newport, they have like they're almost like cliffs. They're not really all that high. They're probably wouldn't be called or considered bluffs. But I wanted to be able to point the camera up, come up and over the rocks, and I couldn't with the Mavic 2 Pro. And honestly, I just said, screw it, I'm not even going to fly.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had, the ability to go like, completely 90 with the gimbal and get those wild angles that you get with the Inspire. I mean, that would be amazing if we had a drone that wasn't quite as large as the Inspire, that was still as capable.
Yeah, and I think that they could
to that effect. And I mean, the Mavic comes close. But I mean, you're going to get props in the shot if you go too terribly far, but you can get pretty close with it.
No, here's the thing is that through software, it just limits you. So even if you're in sport mode and you're flying forward, the camera will shoot downwards so that it doesn't get the top portion, like the body of it in the frame. And that's the most annoying thing, because the camera sits so close to that top portion that if you're tilting too far forward, you're not going to be able to point the camera upwards, and it's just such a pain. But back to this color science, man. I don't know. I mean, I was looking at your photos, and I think you were really able to get a lot out of those Mavic 2 zoom images.
I'm struggling here because my AirPods are saying 5%, but they've been in this little case. Apparently, it's not. The case wasn't charged.
I've been having a ton of trouble with my AirPods, like dying prematurely.
So like right now, I'm like, what I'm doing is I'm like, well, what do I do? I guess I'm going to have to grab another Bluetooth headset.
You know what I do? If I know that they're dying, I'll put one AirPod inside of the case and then use the other and then keep flip-flopping back and forth.
Oh, that's a good move. That's clutch. I'm going to do that right now.
Well, so after shooting with the Mavic 2 Pro for so long, it makes me wonder how much more we actually need from a camera. I mean, I guess the only upgrade that I would want in a camera being able to shoot in the air would be interchangeable lenses, which the Inspire 2 has, and you can do that on the X5S and the X7. But even when I put that photo up of the... I talked about it twice, so I'm just going to make it the backdrop and the thumbnail for this video. So if you guys are looking at that portion of the video, or I guess like the video portion of this podcast, I shot this with the Mavic 2 zoom, and it's zoomed all the way out to 48 millimeters, but being able to shoot this with the X7 at a higher resolution, 50 mil, that would just be a dream.
Yeah, and I'm really quick. I just want to touch on that since you brought that up about the thumbnail. Have we received any emails? I haven't even looked at the email just yet. We've
received a few. I want to put some into a stockpile, and I think that maybe for like the first 10 or 15 episodes, we're going to use your and my shots. But if you guys want to, we've got a email in the description. Go ahead and shoot us an email. We will go ahead and look through the photos you send us, and we'll make them the thumbnail or the backdrop.
What we should do is take like each week, what we'll do is we'll take like top 3 for like, we'll look at all the photos and we'll say, okay, we're going to take these 3. We'll put them up on Twitter, the top 3 that we think. So we'll narrow it down to like 3. We'll put them up on Twitter and then let the community vote as to which ones they want to see, because we don't have the community tab yet. And I think Twitter's like the easiest way, and it can get really interactive. So we'll throw them out on Twitter. Let people vote, so that way we're not like being biased or anything. We can let people see which one they like out of the 3. So we'll narrow it down, and then you guys vote.
Yeah, and look, if we don't choose yours, don't be mad. We're super picky. We want to use like the best of the best of the best photos. Like we want some epic photos.
Yeah, we want to see something that we haven't seen before. Like, so when you're thinking about your photo, think about something that, like, when you give somebody a photo, you want them to be like, damn, that is amazing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's like, when you see something on Instagram or something, you want to be like, damn, that's amazing. Like, make us say damn. That's all.
So, you've been shooting with the Autel Evo recently. I know we touched on it a little bit in the beginning of the podcast, but I'm really a fan of the colors. And you know what? When people are shooting with that drone, I'm surprised it has the smaller size sensor. I'm surprised it's not a 1-inch sensor, because when I look at it, I just am like, wow.
Supposedly it has. So when I was out there at their corporate office and I got a chance to talk to him, one of the questions I asked him, I said, hey, I'm hearing stories and you're advertising that this has 10-bit color science, or, it's got the 10-bit colors. Is this true? And they said in H.265, it has the capability when it needs it to ramp to 10-bit.
What does that mean, when it needs to?
I don't know. He didn't really expand on it. I thought it was a little weird, but I can tell you from doing some pretty extreme grades to the footage, unlike the Mavic 2 Zoom, if I push decent too far, it will break apart, and you can see artifact in, like, especially in shadows, it will artifact hard if you push it. But the Evo, I can push it just as hard as I push the colors in the Mavic 2 Pro, and it never breaks apart or artifacts. So there's got to be some truth to that. Again, I'm not a professional colorista, and I don't know the exact science behind it, but they definitely have given a lot of thought to the color on that drone. 100%. They've given a lot of thought to it.
I think you might jump through the screen and strangle me here, but I would prefer to edit D-Log on like the Inspire 2 over D-Log M. I don't know what it is, but I would just prefer...
It's the H.265, man. That H.265 is a pain in the neck. I thought it was too for a while. Like, I was like, man, I hate this, but...
No, but I still shoot an H.265 on my Inspire 2. So
what don't you like about D-Log M?
So I can tell you that a lot of the presets and a lot of the things that I use for the Inspire 2, I try to translate that over to the Mavic 2 Pro, and everything has like this green tint that I can't get rid of. I don't know what it is.
I have not seen a green tint. Not in my footage. I mean, it depends. So I see people when they shoot in hybrid log gamma, and it doesn't matter what camera or whatever, but HLG either always has a green tint to it or always has a orangish tint that's just not appealing. Like, I don't know, HLG, I don't like HLG at all, but I've not seen anything like a green cast at all. Not at least to me.
That's another reason why I gravitate towards the Inspire 2. I really don't know. I just have this like green tint, and it always makes me really upset.
You know the thing that I hate about the Phantom, and I'm sure the Inspire is this way. If I switch into log to take a photo, it's in log. Like, I have to. It's like Sony. Like, you know what I mean? If I'm in the color profile S log and I go to take a photo, it's an S log photo. I'm like, why? Why, Sony?
Yeah, no, it's not, or it is like that. But you know what I've noticed is, like, even if it's showing that the photo is in D-Log or in D-Log, when you shoot the photo, it comes out in normal. I think. I don't know. So here's a question for you. Oh, first of all, before I ask you that question, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question for you.
Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah, no. I'm doing what you said. I'm swapping AirPods, dude. They were down to 3%. Now it's at 63%. I don't know if that's real, dude. I'll have to talk to Tim Cook about this.
You know what I've noticed is the AirPods, after you have them for a while, the battery is a little bit wonky in them. Okay, so the thing I want to bring up is shooting D-Log video with the Phantom 4 Pro. For some reason, the ISO is locked at 500.
It's so bad. That is so bad.
And
the aperture only goes to f11. Why?
It's never been like that. It's from a recent update, and I've got no idea why. I actually was looking at some forums because I was wondering, like, I got my Phantom 4 Pro fixed. I hadn't flown in a while, and I went to go shoot D-Log, and it was like stuck at 500. I kept restarting the drone. I kept trying all these different things. I started looking it up, and everybody's like,
a while. When I had my P4 Pro, like the first one before I wrecked it, it was stuck at 500, and I always found that really weird that I would have to. Yeah, it's been like that for a little bit.
I don't remember.
I would have to use ND filters. I would have to like.
You have to use like an ND32.
No, I put an ND16 on and then ramp up the because I like to overexpose my log footage like a half a stop to a stop with D-Log. D-Log is just D-Log I like to overexpose by one stop. The Mavic 2 Pro I'll expose by like 1.3 stops.
Jeez.
Is the sweet spot.
Well, so here's my question to you. You love D-Log M. That seems to be like your baby.
I shoot log everything, log all things.
Well, now I'm wondering if you're shooting video with the Mavic 2 Zoom, what's your color profile?
Mavic 2 Zoom, decent-alike.
Pretty much.
Decent-alike. I actually that vlog I did with the Osmo Pocket, I was shooting decent-alike, and I found these LUTs, like they're not meant for this footage. It's meant for S-Log, but I just tone it back a little bit and it just gives the right amount of saturation and color curve, and it's just got really, really smooth highlight roll off, and it looks really appealing. Like I'm a big fan of like more muted colors. Like I don't like overly vibrant or saturated colors. I like sort of that filmic look.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I find that the Decine-like color profile on both the Osmo Pocket and the Osmo Action, I like them better than what they have on the drones. I wonder if they did like something different.
I'm telling you, dude, the color science on the Osmo Action and the Osmo Pocket, I like. There may be a lot of GoPro fans out there, but I don't find the flat profile on the GoPro to be very forgiving or that good. Like I shot that video all decent alike and it looked great. The dynamic range is fire on the Osmo Action. Absolutely fire and decent alike.
It is
amazing.
I've got the Osmo Action. I keep that inside of my bag 24/7, and I've actually got a little cage on the outside. I haven't shot with it in a while. I've got to do something. In fact, you know what? I'm beginning to film my boosted board review. My boosted board stealth review is totally unrelated. And I ate shit again.
I know it's not funny. No. I mean, that thing scares me.
It's been 3 times now that I've totally wiped out.
Just do me a solid. Like if you're gonna fall, if you're gonna eat, like your natural, like you know, like on my penny board when I had it, like that's how I broke my elbow, because I hit this massive like concave in the sidewalk, and my first reaction was I'm falling forward. What do? I put my arm out. And the doctor said you would have been better off like just like tucking and rolling than putting your arm out.
And that's what I've learned to do now. The first time, I forget what happened when I wiped out. I forget. I wiped out though. The second time, a dog ran in front of me, and this time the motor went on my board, which kind of caused me to lose balance. And I've actually got a replacement motor behind me, but the motor totally went. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I seriously, I know I keep saying it, but and I wanted to title the video this, but you were like, oh, that's objective. I think the Mavic 2 Pro right now is the absolute best drone that you can buy to shoot photos. Like if you're a photographer, don't look at any other drone but the Mavic 2 Pro. Unless you want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on the Inspire 2, the X7, you can shoot the highest resolution photos that you want. But I think that for the price, the Mavic 2 Pro shoots the best photos in its category.
I think, well, and let me spin it like this, because a lot of people that I don't know, you know, there's a lot of people out there, and again, we have limited options in the drone scene right now. But if you're not doing this professionally, I'll spin it like that. If you're not doing this professionally and your goal is you want to share photos on Insta, you want to share photos to Facebook, I don't think you need the Mavic 2 Pro. You can get away with the Zoom. You can get away with an Evo. You can get away with a lot of options. Hell, you can even get away with the Spark, because the Spark's going to still take some pretty, you know, epic shots. The Mavic Air. I mean, there's a lot of drones that can take great photos, you know, as well, depending on where you're doing. But if you're doing it professionally, and you're going to be delivering it to potential like a client that needs to put this on the MLS, again, it's really subjective. I did some photos, and like I've never had a real estate agent say to me, this wasn't shot with the Mavic 2 Pro. This is not a 1-inch sensor. This isn't 24 megapixels. Yeah. They've never said that to me ever. So the first time somebody says that to me, you know, I'll laugh, because there's no way. It's like people like, there's always like people like, I need a full frame camera. And I'll be like, why do you need a full frame? Well, I need it for this job I'm doing. Okay, well, did they ask you to have a full frame? Yeah, no, they asked me. What? Really? I've never had anybody say that. I mean, full frame could be beneficial, but it's not like a requirement.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And I totally lost what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's sort of funny watching that happen.
Let's put some Jeopardy music right now.
I should because you're just sort of like do do do.
You were talking about the Mavic 2 Pro. You were talking about how nobody asked you to use it. Oh. Okay. Back to your point of the of like a drone to use for like Facebook or Instagram or whatever you want to shoot. I think the best drone you can get for social media is the original Mavic Pro, because you can rotate the camera to shoot vertical.
Well, all right, so here's my counter to your deal. Nobody, like, people, they'd be like, hey, that original Mavic Pro, I think I seen it for just recently like $699.
It's cheap,
but that Mavic 2 Zoom, like, and the Pro, they also offer vertical panos, which are pretty epic. The only problem with those are you're not going to get raw. I don't know. Did the Mavic 2 Pro, when it rotated, did that give you raw verticals?
Yeah, literally the entire camera spins and rotates. So now you can shoot raw, or you can shoot vertical, and you can shoot 4K video. Like I can shoot video 4K vertically if I wanted to.
This is going to sound stupid, and people are going to be like, why do you want this, Dobo? But that barrel roll, that infinite spin like you can do with the Ronins?
Yeah.
I want a gimbal that can let me rotate, like give me a vertical orbit as I'm filming video. So as I'm filming, like, how trippy that would be? Sort of like how you watch the FPV pilots do. I mean, I've been watching a lot of FPV too, and those guys are just, man, I envy them.
I'm pretty sure you can potentially do that with the Inspire 2. I saw a really great video with a lot of rolling in the video, and I think you need to have like dual pilots, and you've got to have like the X5S or the X7. You've got to have one of those higher end cameras, but you can roll to a certain extent.
Yeah, see, that to me would be just amazing. Like, that's the other thing I'm trying to do is with a lot of these videos is not, overly do it with transitions, but what I want to do is get that dynamic movement with the gimbal, try to push the gimbals to their max. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Evo color, big fan of the Mavic 2 Pro color. The Zoom does respectively well, I think, I mean, it's hard to really go wrong nowadays. It really is.
I think it's actually really important that you underexpose with the Mavic 2 Zoom, because I find that it's very easy to blow your images out if you're going to shoot higher.
Well, and that's the thing too. Well, not by a lot, like a half a stop, maybe negative 0.03, especially on video. I underexpose on that because it's hard. Yeah, it is harder to get highlights back with the Zoom, even in decent like. But I'm just not a big fan of how quick the image breaks apart.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to be really, really gentle with it, and you can watch. Like, I'll see like my earlier videos I did. I can see Bandon where I color grade it. Like when we did that video when we were in New York and we were just flying, like epically everywhere. There's parts of the video like I can pick out where I have Bandon in the sky, where I just maxed it out. I think it was in Philly. It was around the statue there that I had some Bandon in the sky. I can pick it out instantly.
Yeah, it's always great to underexpose, really, no matter what camera you're using.
Yeah.
But I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. I'd love to hear what you guys are using, what you guys think of what we spoke about. So feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to know what you're shooting with. And if you've got multiple drones, what do you think shoots the best photos? What do you think shoots the best video? What's your go-to? I'd love to hear.
And even though like there's no video in this, hopefully this was helpful to sort of like have an understanding of like our thought process between color science and like sort of like what we're using, why we're using it, and our go-to drones when we are shooting photos. But anyways, we'll talk with y'all on the next conversation.
Yep, we'll see you guys on Monday.
Later.